Alrighty guys, so this is my totally rigged setup here. By no means professional equipment whatsoever, but we're actually going to take a look at a teardown of the drone that I just recently reviewed and bought, and basically see what's inside of this super lightweight plastic guy. The next video I do will be a review of the flight time for this guy. I just got 3 batteries. Well, I should say I had 1. I ordered 2 more. I'm going on vacation here in 2 days, and I wanted to take it with me, so I wanted a little bit more than 9 minutes of runtime. But I'll do probably some other more in-depth tests, such as trying to see if this thing will fly with more battery in it. So now that I have 2 or 3, I'll probably take one of these out, wire it into another one, double up on the capacity, and see if it works. But to start with, I'll install 1 battery in it, just kind of put a rubber band around it and hold the spare battery to the top of the drone for the extra weight, and see if altitude hold still works. I don't think it's going to work, but if it doesn't, then obviously my spare battery idea isn't going to be as easy to implement as I had thought. If it does work, then I will go ahead and attempt to make a makeshift dual battery, or well, I guess you call it dual battery setup. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to tear this thing down, and we're going to get inside and see just what it takes. Alrighty guys, so as a general disclaimer, I am not endorsed. I did not get sent this drone by JY018 Toys. I paid for everything out of my pocket, and I will give you this straight up. If this drone sucks, I will tell you it sucks. I'm not going to claim to know everything about it or about drones in general, but I will give you about as much information as I can figure out. So what we're going to do is tear this thing apart. My original plan was to use my good tool, but it doesn't seem to go far enough into these holes, so I brought along with me my laptop toolkit, which is actually used for cell phone, laptop repair, disassembly, and really the only piece I need out of here is the super small, it's never going to get on video, Phillips screwdriver with a thin neck. So let's dive in here and start taking it apart. Now I do still want to be able to fly this tomorrow. Like I said, I got new batteries, and I'd like to be able to take this out to the park and just really give it a lengthy test. I'll do more of a flight review, see how long it can actually fly. I haven't tested that yet. I'm not sure if the difference between low quality streaming and high quality streaming is going to make a difference. I guess I'm not going to be able to reuse these foam pads. That's alright. Alright, if they'll stay in, that's cool. But, yeah, that's the other thing, is I'd like to see how well this thing actually does fly. I'm going to try to save some of these if I can. Sorry, this is an unedited video. I know it becomes a little longer. I will edit it if I can. Sometimes people like to see exactly how long something takes, so an unedited video gives them a chance to follow along and do as I do along with it. Sorry if the screen seems to be jumping around. I'm trying out a new camera app here. Okay. And one in the middle. Okay, so it just fell inside. Good thing there's no battery in here. Alright, now everything should be able to pop apart here. Okay. Now I'm not removing the props, which I guess I could, but at the moment I'm not doing that. Alright, it's really down in there. I was hoping it would come out, but it's alright. Let's get this and the last side. Okay. Come on, what's hanging you up? There's nothing under that. So I'm just clipped around the front here. Aha. Whoa, camera goes with it. Okay. So I was right in the first video. This is just rubber. It's not held in, but with some melted plastic here. So don't push on it too much. You'll push it off and not be able to get it back on. Frame is extremely thin. I wouldn't say it's the greatest here, but I mean, heck, this piece alone, you almost can't even feel it in your hand. So this part really doesn't contribute to the weight almost at all. Whew, all right, excuse me. So, if we take the arms here, let's fold an arm out. This will make things easier to get to. Now, if I remember right, the arms, you can buy those separately. I don't remember exactly where. If I find the link in time, I will post it in the description. If I upload the video beforehand, before I find it, then I'll post it when I do. So we seem to have two parts here, actually a couple parts. The LEDs are relatively generic. I wouldn't say they're very bright, especially even at night they're not that bright. So you got one back here that shines through this rubber piece, which again is almost, actually, that's not held in at all. It just kind of drops in. It's not held on like this front piece is with pressed melted plastic. This back piece is literally just dropped inside and sitting in a slot. So let me adjust a couple settings in the camera real quick and we will resume recording. Alright, so that ought to help a little bit with the exposure going crazy on me here. Focus will still be a little strange, but that's alright. So let's take a quick look. The arms just simply drop in. I believe they drop onto these posts. Go ahead and pull one off. In fact, there's my screw. Get that back real quick. Set him aside. Okay. So let's see about taking an arm off. It should, if this is done how I think it is. As you can see, the screw right up there in the center of the arm post. Okay. All right. So the post that holds on the arms is part of the post itself is fairly rigid, but I wouldn't say much around it is, and you can kind of tell that this is an extremely flexible frame, which does help with impact a little bit. But I'll tell you, if you run this thing into a hard surface like a wall or something else at relatively high speed, even if you're not worried about the props, you're probably going to break the arm. But, you know, that's a risk you take. So, if we trace these wires back, these two here are soldered directly onto the control board. And if you're curious, there's the model number for the control board here. And this is your power button. We'll take that off here in just a second. But what I want to look at now, let me just pop this prop off. They come off better when you land in a bush than if you just simply try to pull them off. Should I bust out my prop tool? Let me try another piece of my computer part here. Okay, so turns out they really are on there, and fairly well, actually. So I'm just going to bust off this screw here. I could take off the bottom, which would give me this, but I think the majority of the motor piece that we want is back in here. So let me take my bigger, better, nicer screwdriver here. Okay. Of course, it's not like there's any waterproofing, so there's nothing to really worry about here. It doesn't come up as easily as I would think. Okay. So no, back here is just wiring, and I can actually go ahead and put this one back on. I'll keep everything together. Okay, so let's put this back on here. I'm not going to take all the arms off, but I at least want to get this apart to where you guys can see the motor, because that may be a question that some of you have. Is it friendly? Is it user replaceable? That kind of thing. Oh, almost had it out. All right, there it is. Over there. And that should separate this top part. Okay, so I do see a bit of gearing in here, and it almost looks like it's got some lubed up parts on it. So we're going to come into the box that was given, and we're actually going to take out the prop removal tool here. So we can take the prop off, and then we can take a look at the gearing that's in there. Okay, so now we have our metal prop removal tool, which I have not used yet, but we're going to figure this thing out real quick. Okay, much easier. I am going to undo this back one because it seems to be getting in the way. Okay. Okay, so it has a little metal collar that the bottom of this piece sits down in. Let me move that over here. So here's your motor. Runs at 90 degrees, and you'll notice that this piece can come completely out. It's just a gear, and it's a decent sized motor. But remember, this is just plastic on plastic. That's all it is. So if you, I haven't seen a place to get these replacement gears, or for that matter, even the motor, but it comes as a complete arm assembly. And this does seem to be lubed up already. This just sets in and sits down just like that. Get this thing to refocus here. Okay. and it does spin freely on its own. There's no resistance. These are brushed motors, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're brushed motors, not brushless. Not on this cheap a drone. So that's not too bad. Let's go ahead and stick this guy back together real quick. That comes down through here. That is not how that goes. It's harder to put together than it looks. So I'm going to take off this back arm like I did before. And I believe they were routed on this side. I don't really think it makes much of a difference, but let's go ahead and put that back on. Let's take our screws, put them back in. Okay. Don't screw down too tight. I got a feeling this plastic will strip very, very easily. And at this point, that is definitely something you do not want to do. This isn't something that I would say parts are readily available. And, you know, especially for that matter, even though this is a cheap drone, if I remember right, the arms are about $2 a piece for one arm. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what I remember. So we can leave the arm off for the moment. Here, which apparently used to be hot glued to something, is the Wi-Fi antenna. This is our Wi-Fi board. And would you look at that? Correct me if I'm wrong, but this looks like a Microsd slot. A slot for the Microsd card is built into the Wi-Fi board with the camera and everything. There's your camera. But I don't know if I can get this up so you guys can see this. But that, I swear, is a Microsd slot. Let me pull up out of my drawer here. I've got somewhere here, give me just a second. Well, I did. Aha. Okay. So I have a few laying around here. Let's pull one out and let's have a look. You know what, I'll tell you, that's looking promising. Doesn't quite seem to want to go right. Ha! It is. It is a Microsd card slot. Now, whether or not this is functional, that remains to be seen. I'm going to leave the top off. Well, no, I'm not going to leave the top off. I'm going to have to put it back on. You know what? I am. I'm going to leave all this off. I'm going to disconnect the props, and I will turn it on, run it, and so on. And I'm going to leave one of these in here. I've got in this case, a 2 gig flash drive here. And this, I'm going to stick in the computer. I'm going to format to probably, let's do FAT32. And we'll pop that back in here in the board. We'll do a little bit of recording and put this back in the computer and see if anything comes of it. I will do that a little bit later here in the video, but let's continue on to the rest of the teardown real quick. So with this, I'm not sure where it was glued to. I don't see any readily available signs here. I would assume it was somewhere in the middle, but yeah, this blob of glue doesn't really help me, so I'll have to figure that out. I'm not going to take off the control board, as there's, well, really nothing exciting underneath. It's just more frame. But see if there's any identifiable. So the camera is replaceable, if you notice. It has its own ribbon cable and its own socket. And let me... It's probably not readily viewable. I don't know if they would make more versions of this camera or not. I highly doubt it. And even if they did, it probably wouldn't be easily swappable, because this is kind of a generic thing, and most of them probably aren't going to be quite like this with this shaped housing, which is meant to fit this drone. But I will see if I can do a little research on that. Maybe it's possible to upgrade it, and this board can actually handle more than what is currently a 2 megapixel camera or a 0.3 for the lower models. But yeah, so if you need a new antenna, literally this just pops off of here. It's just a Wi-Fi card, and I would say glue it back down. But seeing as I don't know where this was, just find a place in the nose, really. I mean, I imagine it's been off on mine for a little while. But so camera replaceable, Wi-Fi board, control board back here, only 2 LEDs front and back, and I will see if I can get some brighter ones. I'll have to measure the voltage on this and see what they're capable of handling. But let's go ahead and put, actually, if we can get this. So let's put this board, which, by the way, it looks, if you look at these clips right here, it looks as if the board itself clips in. Now, I didn't feel any resistance when I pulled it out, and mind you, I have crashed this twice since I got it fairly hard. But obviously nothing's been broken. I haven't been too rough with it. I've been trying not to. I'll tell you, to get those clips to activate, wow, that is difficult to get in, isn't it? All right, let me keep trying here. I think I got it. Maybe. Ha! There we go. Okay, so we'll drop the camera in. Now, I think I mentioned that the camera has a viewing angle. If we rotate it down, as far down as it'll go, which is about 45, then you've pulled the ribbon cable about as tight as it's going to go. Personally, I wouldn't flex this ribbon cable too much. I've not had a whole lot of luck with these flexing multiple times and staying intact. So I leave mine just a little facing down, so at least you can see the ground. You don't have to be right in front, but I try to leave mine where it is. Alright, so let's get the arm back on. And all the motors should be exactly the same. They'll work the same way. In fact, it looks as if... Alrighty, we got a little bit of hiccup there. Ran into some file size limits. It looks as if the motors and the arms are exactly the same. So if you buy one, it'll fit any of the 4. So let's go ahead and get this back on here. Okay, there's the resistance. And out of curiosity, because I'd like to know, this little bump right back here, in the back of the arm, you can kind of see that. That rubs against that tiny little post. That's what gets your arm to stay in whatever position you have it in. So there's lock, and there's past the post, and there's in lock position. So also, being plastic, not a spring-loaded mechanism or anything like that, if you open and close this too much, you will wear down the plastic, and inevitably it will not stay open all the time. So don't expect this thing to last your lifetime. Heck, don't even expect it to last multiple years, especially if you use it on any sort of regular basis. It will wear out. But for 30 bucks, it's actually not bad. So let's go ahead and stick all this stuff back on here. Get them buttoned back up. Okay. Make sure that still works. Camera's on. Now I wanted to know, if you notice, I'm not doing a whole lot of work, but this seems to be where the Wi-Fi antenna was sitting. This is kind of where the wire's memory has put this in relation to the rest of it. So let's see if we can determine where. And I have a feeling it might have been glued. Let me find a pointy thing here. Right about in on this side. So what I'm actually going to do, you don't want it to get in the way of this, which comes up through this post here. That's the center screw. So I'm really just going to find a place for it, not along most of the wires, I guess, but let's see if I can't maybe stick it right here. Okay, let's kind of bend that down just a little bit. Okay, so that's where I'm going to place it. I think it'll probably work fine. You know what? I'm actually going to adjust that, because if I can get this in here, then I'll have less interference from the power and the control board. FCC regulations and all. Part 13 is your friend. Not really. Okay, so it's not really in the way of anything. And you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to take our micro SD card and stick it in here before I put everything back together. Let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I got back. I have formatted the 2 GB micro SD card to FAT32. It is completely empty. Let's go ahead and stick it in here. Clicks in. Now I don't, because I'm actually not going to put it back together completely. I'm going to test it out with the phone. Let me bust out my old trusty Nexus 6P here. Now look at that. You can see I'm recording with another phone. That's the phone I would normally use, but we're going to use the Nexus 6P here. It's running Nougat, and I believe it already has the app on it. So, while this is booting up, what I think I'm going to do is simply run the app and get it to where it's running and I have a video feed coming back to the phone. I'll let that run. I'm not going to press record video or take photo. I'll let it sit there for a minute. I'll power it down, and then I will check and see on the computer if anything has been written to the flash drive. Okay. And I know I need to update the app real quick. Haven't updated this thing for a while. I don't know if maybe an update does something with the SD card, so we're going to update it anyway. Well, I gotta set this up. Alright, so rather than put you through all that, I just went ahead and did it. So I've updated, and now we're going to stick a battery in here, power it on, connect to it, and see what we get. Okay. We have everything sitting out where it's available. I can easily get to the card when I need it. I'm going to disconnect the props. In case you're curious, the black ones are for the rear and the blue ones are for the front. They are marked as such. But this is just so that when I decide, if I start it up, it won't go taking off on me. It's the last thing I need right now. Okay. So let's go ahead and start up our app. You probably aren't going to be able to see that. So we're going to go into Wi-Fi. And this thing's on exposure lock, so good luck with that. Okay. Let me turn off exposure lock real quick. Alright, so we should have... Okay, now that we're blinking like that, let's go refresh. Here we are. Connect. Now don't get me wrong, these lights definitely look brighter when the cover is off. They do not really look that bright when the cover's on. That blue LED, in case you're wondering down there, let me cover that up. That blue LED on the Wi-Fi board is probably just a power indicator. It has nothing to do with the fact that there's a micro SD card in it. That's on anyway, and you can actually see it if you look closely in my review video. So now that we're connected, let's head on back to the app. And as you can tell, we have video. Now my first test here is going to be without running, without actually running it. So it's clear that we have working video. I'm not going to hit record or take photo up here in the top. We're just going to leave it as is. Then we're going to power it down, pop out the micro SD card. I'm just really quickly going to take it to the computer, and if there's something to show you, I will disconnect the camera and show you that. Okay, so let me go ahead and disconnect this real quick. It appears that in our micro SD card is a folder called video, and it is currently empty. Now remember, I did not record anything. So let's go back, put it back in, and this time hit record video and see if it records video to both the phone and the micro SD card, or maybe just the card. We'll find out in a minute. Alright, so we're back, and if you notice, now my Wi-Fi card, the blue LED is blinking. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but we're going to try this out now and record some video. So let me get a little bit better shot than down there. Nothing exciting over there. Okay, so now we're we're going to record some video. I don't know if you can see. Okay, so we've done that. And take a picture. Take a picture. Now if we go and stop that, we go in here, video on card. You see that? And if you'll notice, and you can see that video is blinking. So it turns out that if you want to take, here, let's even look at pictures. See? And the pictures do take here. So it turns out that with this selfie drone, it actually does have a fully functional, let me turn this off, microSD card slot on it. And it does, in fact, record to the card if you have one. Now, the question here is that same video going to appear on your phone? So if we go into Photos, lo and behold, the photos are also on the phone. It doesn't show the video. It shows the video as being on the card, but not on the phone in this particular case. But the photos will take both on the phone and to the card. So the next question, which I'll probably have to do in another video, someone's setting off fireworks in my backyard. The next question is, what is the largest card capacity that this will support? That's going to be an interesting question. But what I'm going to do, and I'm pretty sure this is going to work, I have a 16 gig to, I have 3 16 gigabyte cards, and I have a 2 gigabyte in there right now. So I'm going to take one of my class 2 16 gig cards here and format it FAT32, stick it in this guy, and we will see just how much capacity it actually uses. But you know what? Unless you take these things apart, you never know. And there was never anything advertised that this had any form of internal card support whatsoever. Turns out it does. It is functional. A little strange, mind you, but it is completely functional. So keep that in mind when you're buying this thing. You could stream it to your phone, and most likely your phone is going to have far more storage than a microSD card is going to have. But if you just have a cheap phone, maybe you're running out of storage space, and you want to take the time to take this apart and put a microSD card in it, you can do that. What I don't think is going to work, and I thought about this as I was pausing the video, is because of the direction that the card slot faces toward the back here, was that I could possibly cut a hole right down here, make a slot, and I could maybe access the card if I take the battery out. I don't really think that's feasible, at least in any real way. That would be nice, so that I don't have to take this completely apart. And I am planning on doing some mods to this. I'm going to do some LED additions and other things. So let's check something out real quick. If this is as far out as it sticks, because remember it's spring loaded, so you could push it in with a screwdriver or a bobby pin or paper clip or something if I cut a slot down there. But if I do this and I clip it into where it goes, then yes, it sticks out far enough into the battery bay that I would be able to get it somehow and pull it out. Getting it back in might be a little bit of a trick, but it should be accessible if I make a slot down there. another video for the mods. That's an entirely separate thing. This is really just a teardown. So I know I spent a lot of time on the Wi-Fi board, but it appears that this has much more functionality than was advertised. I don't know if maybe there was another model that was supposed to have these features, or maybe they just didn't want to tell you about it. This board could easily have been used in another drone that they make that does have a better accessibility for the slot, but I'll have to do some more research on it. I will look up camera specs, see if this board can be replaced to upgrade the camera, and this may end up being an even better, more modular, generic $25 to $30 selfie drone than originally thought. So I'm going to button this thing up and close out the video. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I do want to make a special note here that in case you're having trouble getting your props back on the way they should be, if you look at this direction, if you call that, say, fronts that way, the front right, see if I can rotate this around where you can see it. No? Because the camera's being stupid. Okay. The front right rotor, or the prop, I should say, is labeled B1, and the front left, there you can probably see that, is A1. The rear, the back right is A1. They should be opposite, catty corner. And the back left, you guessed it, is B2. So another way, if you don't want to remember that, if I straighten these props out, if you see the way that the black ones are in the back, see the way that they're facing? Both blades are facing toward the back, cutting edges toward the back. If you turn it around, the blue blades are the same thing, but facing to the front. So, things to keep in mind. Well, with that, that is the teardown review, or at least the initial teardown review for this thing. This is a JY018, $25, $30 with tax, depending on where you get it. I may end up putting up an eBay listing to sell these guys for probably around 45 to 50. What I sell, the extra money will go toward getting another drone, something else I can review. Never know, I might take it apart and find out things that no one else knew about. But with that, hope you guys have a good one. Like, share, subscribe. In the comments, let me know if you'd like to see me test something else. You're welcome to donate to me as well. That also helps me get into some newer hardware. And until the next time, have a good one.